Good day and welcome to The Story Behind the Story for June 24th, 2022. I'm Ken Waddell, publisher of the Neepawa Banner Press, and today I have with me Casper Wehrhahn, a key member of our news department here in our Neepawa office. Before we get into the stories that are in the paper this week, I want to pay tribute to a person who we lost from the Neepawa community this week with the passing of Ivan Trail. Ivan, who got to be 90 years old in May, not that long ago retired from working here at NACTV. And in the 40 years that the station has been going, he was instrumental in videoing, editing, managing the station, and sometimes almost literally carrying the station on his back to keep it going and make it the success that it is today. We owe a debt of gratitude at NACTV and from the community to Ivan Trail, and our condolences go out to his wife Pat and his children. It goes without saying that Ivan lived larger than life, contributed to many, many projects over the years that he was here. He filled many roles in the community, and he will be sadly missed by us all. And I hope that when the occasion is correct, that you will pass on your condolences to the family as well on the passing of a truly great man in our community. Today's paper is a jam-packed paper. We often use that phrase, but today it truly is. And on the front page, we have a story about the Filipino Heritage Day, which was held last Saturday, a tremendous celebration of Filipino culture and the Filipino presence in our community. It's estimated there's somewhere between 2,500 and maybe 3,000 Filipino folks in the Neepawa, and certainly there is that many in the area. And a large percentage of them, of course, work at High Life, but a large number of them work at other businesses as well. And if you look at last week's paper, in the graduation section, you will see a great number of familiar and maybe not so familiar Filipino student pictures and names in the grad section there. So the Filipino community is tremendously integrated into Neepawa. But they wanted to showcase their culture and their regions last week. And Casper, would you happen to see the parade? I know I was there, saw it all, but did you see some of it?
I unfortunately was not. I was occupied doing some other things, but I saw the photos and just the vibrance of all the activity going on there and the color and the culture being showcased there was absolutely tremendous. It's just awesome to see even in the pictures, and I'm sure in person it was even better.
Well, it was very good, and it was a hot day, but it wasn't too terrible bad, and there were several floats and 2 or 3 dancing groups that put on a dance demonstration in front of the judges' stand. I was privileged to be one of the judges for the event. And then after the parade was over, everybody went over to the Yellowhead Center, and in the lobby and in the hall and of course in the arena, they had the sound system set up. They had dignitaries there. They had a long line of dignitaries. MLA Eileen Clark was there, MP Dan Mazier, Minister of Immigration John Reyes, who was born in Canada here, but to Filipino parents. His mom and dad came with them. I had the privilege of meeting them, although I'd certainly met them on Facebook a few times, and I'd met John Reyes a number of times. A very a talented man and very outgoing, a very tremendous people person. So it all added to the event, and then there was entertainment, and then there was games, and in between there they had a huge Filipino supper prepared, very ably prepared by Oji Dizon and his volunteers, and it was served up in the takeout boxes, so there was no waiting, just like grab your box and go eat your supper. And I heard that they prepared 2,500 meals, and it certainly looked like 2,500 boxes on the tables there ready to go. So big shout out to the committee. I know that one of the key people was Larnie Santos, but there was many others involved and in the committee and in the setting up that tremendous parade event for us. So thank you to them. It was a really, really good thing to see. And another feature we got, entirely different topic, but I'll just leave it to you to explain it to us, Casper. NACI, Neepawa Area Collegiate Institute, bar stool races. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so
intriguing title.
Very intriguing title, and I'm sure is making people kind of scratch their heads, being like, "What? Barstool races? What the heck?" And it's a very, very interesting thing that went on there. Kind of similar to the event that happened in Gladstone, which I covered in a previous paper. Except, there's no go-karts. It's bar stools turned into little racing gadgets there. NACI, the power mechanics class, put on an event on June 15th to put their skills to the test, their work. And so they had these racers made with bar stools that they took out to the football field there, and they had a course set up that they raced around, and they had drag races as well, and just neat gadgets there. It's really cool, but also kind of humorous to see. And if you look at the pictures, it'll explain itself. Honestly, I can show the camera here, but be sure to get a proper look on the full version of the paper so that you can really see that in better detail there, and just paint the picture much better than you can see on the camera. But incredible, fascinating little things there. And even though the course out there was quite wet because we had some rainy conditions there, all the students really seemed to have fun. Kira Patterson was on the ground covering this, and the excitement honestly was palpable. Just even seeing from the photos, we had some crowd shots that we couldn't include. We didn't have space, and the ones that we selected honestly just really illustrated the action, I think, quite well, so we went with those instead. But yeah, just absolutely wonderful time, and the students had a blast figuring things out and sort of doing little loops in the wetter spots, but don't worry, they were all safe. They had headgear and everything, and they were quite well accustomed to motoring around on these gadgets. And they actually had a raffle there as well, Ken. Someone was lucky enough to have their name drawn, and that winner was actually Brenda Nicholson. So her son came and collected that prize for her, and the barstool racer that was given out was actually sort of the top racer for the day, it turned out. So that was quite the event there.
Yeah, I didn't get to it, but I see in the picture there that the front end is throwing up a wake and the back end is throwing up a rooster tail. So they were having a lot of fun, obviously. Great idea. I think I'd fall off. It's pretty high.
Yeah, I don't know.
Put you way up there. But
I think I'd be, the pedals, it seems, are or whatever you use to make it go there. Actually, I think it's on the handles, but I think I'd be quite nervous. I'd turn myself over on that. But yeah, they had a great time.
Well, that's cool. That's cool. Canada Day's coming up. Going to be Canada Day celebrations in Minnedosa. They're going to be in Carberry, but they're going to be in Neepawa. And we've got the plan is there for that. Page A2. No, that's wrong. Wrong page. Where are we?
Should be A2.
Oh my goodness.
Right at the front there.
There we are. Can't even see it in my own newspaper. But anyway, there's a lot of activities planned for Neepawa, and I think there was an ad in maybe last week's paper for that that you could look up. Going to be at Riverbend Park, and there's going to be a fairly traditional Canada Day celebration there, and as I say, there's other places too. I believe Minnedosa and certainly Carberry. Carberry Fair is on that weekend, so that's going to be a big deal for Carberry for kind of celebrating the Canada Day weekend as well. So anyway, you know about, Kira wrote this story, do you know about the Margaret Lawrence Manawaka Garden Party?
I did actually brush up on it right before the show.
Good.
this story seemed familiar to me, and I think it's because they were going to hold it in the past. I could be mistaken on that. I think they were going to hold it in the past, but then just sort of circumstances didn't allow that to happen, or they were planning it for this year, and now they're doing it this year. But it was this Maniwaka Garden Party, keyword in that last word being art, was inspired by an event previously held in Burnie, and they're actually going to be holding this one in Neepawa in July, I believe on the 16th. And it'll be featuring gardens in and around Neepawa, and so people will be able to go and visit the gardens that are being featured, and they'll have a bunch of art in them as well, featuring local artists, a variety. And so that'll be a very unique experience for people to take part in, get out and be in the open air, enjoy nature, and enjoy the works of art by local artists as well.
Cool. It's interesting when we mentioned Margaret Lawrence Home, and I think back to my intro statement about Ivan Trail. He was instrumental in, among others, getting Margaret Lawrence Home bought and restored into the position it is in today. And just to digress for a little bit, Ivan was instrumental also in a program called Neepawa Community Schools, and that would be in 1971, 72, 73 is when it started. And Ivan always felt that the school was meant to be used not only by the students of school age, that is 18 and under, but by the whole community. And for a few years there was a number of programs. There was cooking course, there was welding course, accounting, there was a bridge club, there was some sports programs in the gymnasium, huge number of programs there, and including some art programs and an art festival. And out of that grew the Margaret Lawrence Home and the Viscount Cultural Center, which later became, of course, Arts Forward. And it's hard to measure what one person has done in the community, but there is certainly a lot of byproduct, so to speak, from the legacy of Ivan Trail, and Margaret Lawrence was certainly one of them. We're going to talk about the Farmer's Advocate in a few minutes because we have that this week. We put out the Farmer's Advocate in both Neepawa and in Rivers, the last Friday of every month except December and January, and we'll get to that in a minute. But I wanted to talk a little bit about my column this week because it took me a lot of years to come to this conclusion that I present here today, or in the June 24th paper. And a lot of times, whether it's politics, business, education, healthcare, you'll hear the expression good enough, good enough. And I maintain and state quite strongly that to me, and I don't always excel, I get that, I understand that, but good enough is not good enough. Excellence is what we should be trying to achieve and strive for. And it doesn't matter whether that's in our personal life, in our business life, in our politics, or whatever. I urge you to read it. And as always, it's my opinion. You don't have to agree with it. If you want to agree with it and let us know that, that's good. If you want to disagree with it and let us know, that's good too. I think we have developed a reputation here at the Neepawa Banner Press over the now almost 33 years we've been going, is that you don't have to agree with the editor to get your opinion in the paper. In fact, it's better if, in many ways, I guess if you don't, because if we don't have differences of opinion, if everybody's thinking the same thing, then nobody has to say anything. I think it's important to express different views and have them aired in public. And no, good enough isn't good enough. Excellence should be what we should be aiming for, and we try to do that here, and we fall short. But we aim high. We're sure not going to aim low and plan to hit it every time. So good enough isn't good enough. And I challenge people to think that through in whatever aspect they want to look at it. The second section of the paper, and it is a second section, our mini forum here, but it's a pull-out section. And Casper, you honestly tell you, and I tell you this often, but you did a tremendous job on this story about the aerial spraying company. And so tell us about Western Canadian Aerial, what you learned. And I imagine you learned some. I don't think you knew it all when you went into do the story.
Oh,
just like
certainly
I don't. But
not.
yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Tell us about it. And you got some. They gave us some good photos. The one in particular is very sharp. And so go ahead. You tell us all about it.
Yeah, so it's a lot of information. I probably won't remember all of it off the top of my head here, but I had the pleasure of interviewing Sprague Richardson and Justin McKenzie of Western Canadian Aerial Limited. And it was honestly a business that I guess kind of knew was around, because spray planes, you see them when you're driving up somewhere, just happen to see them going over a field, but I didn't know that the business was like here in Neepawa, or at least had one of its hangars here in Neepawa. So I learned about it in that sense, and then I just learned a whole lot more from there interviewing them, because I honestly don't know a whole lot about agriculture, but I've been learning more as we've been doing these Farmers Advocate sections, and just going in the archives as well and finding these old articles. But for spray planes in particular, I learned a lot from them, sort of how the application works, and the benefits that it can provide the people in the agriculture industry that are growing crops and whatnot, because apparently trample factor is something that impacts the economic return that you get on your crop, because you're getting a trampled crop. It's damage or what have you, but with the spray planes you don't get that, so there's a bit more benefit there in that sense. And I actually didn't know that you could do seeding by spray plane as well. You can do aerial seeding, so that was really cool to find out. And I got to go in the hangar there when I was interviewing them, and that we have a picture of that on the front page there. Very nice hangar. I got to see the planes in there. They were working on doing some maintenance there, because Neepawa is used year-round as a maintenance facility there, and they actually have like 4 or 5 planes flying out of there as well, like throughout the entire season every year. Mm-hmm.
Well, you introduced a new term to me. I'm an old-time agrologist, but trample factor. I hadn't heard that one, but it's
I don't think that's the term they use.
Oh,
but,
okay. Yeah. Okay. Well,
yeah.
It's accurate. I mean, if you coined the phrase, you did a good job. I knew that you could seed with airplanes, and certainly that has happened this year because of the wet conditions. There's been quite a bit of crop and seeded by airplane, and there will be an awful lot more herbicide control and insect control with airplanes this year, because the fields are so wet that they can't put wheeled equipment onto them. I see they only have 1 seat on these planes, so I guess you didn't get a ride.
No. I'd probably be a little too anxious to go up in the air, I admit, though.
I have been up in a light plane a few times, but obviously never in a spray plane, because the spray planes only have the 1 seat, the single cockpit. But yeah, you can see the planes, especially if you travel anywhere, but along 16 highway, it seems these days, every time you go to Brandon or Minnedosa, there's planes in the air spraying crops, and maybe earlier would have been some seeding, so that's cool. We have a little different feature this week in the Farmers Advocate. A number of years ago, I got a hold of a collection. I'm a bit of a collector of old stuff. My wife's a collector of old stuff. She keeps me around. But anyway, I got a whole collection of the Country Guide from the 1930s. And I was particularly interested in those. They're very well preserved. I have them at my house. And I brought 1 or 2 of them into the staff here to show them some of the things that were advertised back in the 1930s. And I was particularly interested in the one year, 1938, because that's the year my brother, who was also a very dear friend of mine, was born. And so I copied one of them and gave them to him for his birthday. I actually gave it to him for the April 1938 issue, because that's the month and year he was born. But the blast from the past this week is about a an Oliver tractor, an Oliver 70 tractor, and they're pretty old now, obviously. But actually, I have driven an Oliver 70 tractor somewhere in my past, somewhere. But somebody had one, and I drove it. Kind of a neat little tractor. But it brags that they can work 35 acres a day on 15 gallons of fuel. I'm sure that the farmers today would love to be able to cover their fields with 35 acres with 15 gallons of fuel. I don't think they can do that anymore. But even it's interesting because it's and a good choice by the staff on the picture, because with fuel prices so high right now, and an advertisement from 1938, I believe it was, to show that the tractors, even then, they were striving for fuel economy. So you'll see that on page 4, B4 of the Farmer's Advocate. We have a crop report from Manitoba Agriculture, and we have a seeding update. We have a story about conservation trust funding, new protein research, lots of stuff about the new potash mine that's planned for Russell, Manitoba, which is going to have some economic impact for this area as well. I would think it's great to see that the potash industry is finally coming to Manitoba. It's been a mainstay in Saskatchewan for a long, long time. And I don't usually draw attention particularly to advertising, but on the back page we have a full-page ad from a good advertiser of ours, Sunrise Credit Union, and they're in various places around the banner coverage area, and they have a testimonial story there from a farmer by the name of Paul Bell, and it's interesting reading. It's an advertisement for sure, but it's interesting reading. So just before, we're going to be closing off fairly soon, but just want to remind people that you can get a hold of us, get in contact with us at the Neepawa Banner Press. You can phone us at 476-3401. We'd be happy to hear from you. You can contact us several ways by email. The two handiest ones are news at Neepawa Banner and Press, neepawabanner.com. We didn't change our emails when we amalgamated the papers. And ads at neepawabanner.com. We certainly would love to have your news and photos submitted, but we also would love to have your advertising. The newspaper's only source of income is advertising, because we're a free distribution paper, and so we need ads to keep going. In order to have news, we have to have staff, newsroom staff, such as Casper and her compatriots, and in order to have salaries for them, and I like to have a salary too, we have to have advertising. And advertisers have been very faithful to us, and we can always use more, so we appreciate that. So news at neepawabanner.com and ads at neepawabanner.com. You can drop in and see us at the Neepawa Banner and Press office at 423 Mountain Avenue, and that's right across the street from the Bank of Montreal. If you want to come in to see NAC TV, it's at the same location, and the phone number at NAC TV is 204-476-2639. And NAC TV, as many of you know already, is on Bell 592, MTS 30 and 1030, and also on WCG 117, and on the internet at nactv.tv. So as we close, have you got any closing thoughts about this this issue, this double whammy issue that we've done here, Casper?
Well, that's a very good paper. Honestly, each section came together really well. We had a lot to fill it out, a lot of great content this week. And I know we say that a lot, but it's true. Like, I honestly feel really good about this paper, and I learned a lot being able to work on some of the stories for it. The B section specifically. Actually, I think that was my only story this week, but I had a lot of work I was doing in the archive, so that's okay. And yeah, just reading everything going on in the community and being planned in the community and around the community. There's a lot of stuff happening again, which is just awesome to see, especially with the weather and kind of despite it, because it has been quite warm or rainy, just depending on the day. But yeah, great paper overall, and very happy with the effort that everybody's putting into it, and just seeing everything going on And I'm actually curious as well. I know we've started doing features of old ads on the Looking Back page, and I'm hoping we get some feedback on that. I want to see what people think about that, if it's sort of piquing people's interest, and hearing about stories like, oh yeah, I remember this place, or things like that. So hopefully people are finding that interesting, and we'll hear about it.
I noticed that Jorgensen's department store is featured on page A8 in the Looking Back section, and Jorgensen's department store was located where Neepawa's Dollar Store and More is right now. And I'm trying to dig into my memory and think of what the name of the store was before that, and I can't right now, but it was a different name before Jorgensen's when I came here to the area in 1971. Tying back into Ivan Trail and his wife Pat, the picture on the Looking Back page commemorates the committee that did the Save the County Court building, and Neepawa's County Court building, built in 1883. By the early 1980s was coming up for question in terms of repairs. It was certainly needed repair, a lot of repairs. And the mayor of the day, who will go unnamed to protect him and his descendants, said, we're going to tear it all down and we're going to build a new building. And Ivan's wife, Pat, took exception to that and said, no, we're not. We're going to restore it. And there was a number of people involved, and the picture of the committee is there. I don't think we have them named, but people will pick out some familiar faces there. Some of the old timers will. And the mayor of the day famously said to this committee and to Pat Trail, no damn woman's going to tell me what to do. And Ivan Trail famously laughed and said, well, he doesn't know my wife Pat. He picked the wrong damn woman to fight. And it was a fight. And it was partly grew out of the fact that the community lost the battle to save the old Viscount School, which was located where the current Beautiful Plains School Division office is now. And it was a lovely old 2-story brick school, which in many respects would have been good to save. But they did save the county court building. And just on that topic, I've been talking to the mayor, and it's time for renovations again, because 1983 is now quite a few years ago. And it does need some repair and upkeep, and it's a difficult decision to make, but I'm sure the building is going to stay there. It actually was established in 1883 by an act of the Manitoba legislature, and any changes to that building would have to be authorized by withdrawing that act or amending the act by the Manitoba legislature. It's not just a Neepawa decision. So on behalf of Casper and myself and all the staff at the Neepawa Banner Press and at NACTV, we thank you for being with us. Sometimes my words don't flow as well as they used to, and I apologize for that. It stems from a neurological condition I have called myasthenia gravis, or MG, and I'm doing the best I can to keep the voice box going, but sometimes it fails me, and I apologize if I stumble with my words once in a while. We're motoring through that. So thank you for being with us, and we'll see you next week, or some of our staff will, for the story behind the stories. Thank you all.